Sorry. Yeah, so the fifth chapter of Bhagavad Gita, he has summarized using this verse, the ninth verse of the Gita Artha Sangraham. Karma yogasya saukaryam shaigryam kaschana tadvidaha brahma jnana prakarasya panchamadhyaya uchyate. So he says in the fifth chapter of Bhagavad Gita, there are four topics. The first topic is Karma yogasya saukaryam. Saukaryam means the simplicity of Karma yoga. Simplicity. Saukaryam. The second thing he says is Shaigryam. That means Karma yoga is very quick in awarding results. Okay, so these two we saw in the first 7 verses of the fifth chapter. So here Karma yoga is being compared with Jnana yoga, mind you. Right? We are not, Bhakti yoga has not yet come in because this is fifth chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So Karma yogasya saukaryam shaigryam means in this fifth chapter, the ease of Karma yoga and the quickness of giving result of Karma yoga has been explained in comparison to Jnana yoga. So that is how Yamunacharya puts it. And the third characteristic he says is Kaschana Tadvidaha. Kaschana Tadvidaha means the process, okay, the various angas of Karma yoga. So that is where we are right now. And the fourth section of the fifth chapter of Bhagavad Gita, he says is Brahma Jnana Prakarascha. That means how to look at the equality in Brahman. Brahman here is referring to all living entities. That means how do you look at Samadarshana? You know, so because there is a very important and big theme in Bhagavad Gita about Samadarshana, how to see everyone equally. So these are the four topics Yamunacharya says of the fifth chapter, right? So we have currently discussed 12 verses. So obviously I will not be going into all those verses, but just a quick, just one glance at some of them. So if you remember in the third verse, on the fourth verse, no, one second. Yeah, in the third verse, he talks about how Karma Yoga is simple. Because if you see that verse, Nyaya sa nitya sannyasi yona dveshtina kamsati nirdvam dohi mahabaho sukham bandhat pramuchate. Where Krishna is saying that sukha bandhat, that means very happily you are released from bondage. Who is released from bondage? The Karma Yogi. In comparison to whom? In comparison to the Jnana Yogi. Correct? Because please remember in the fifth chapter, Arjuna is asking about Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga in the first verse. Okay, so this is where he has spoken about simplicity of Karma Yoga. Then if you see another verse where that comes is in the sixth verse, right? Sanyasastu mahabaho dukkham aptum ayogataha yoga yukto munir brahma achirena adigachyati. Okay, so two characteristics are being spoken in the sixth verse. Sanyasastu mahabaho dukkham aptum ayogata. So first thing he says is sanyasastu means the Jnana yoga. He says dukkham aptum ayogataha. It is little, dukkha means little troublesome to give the result. But yoga yukto munir brahma, but karma yoga, how it is, achirena adigachyati, matlab quickly result de deta hai. So the second characteristic of shaigryam comes over here. Shigra. Shigrata se aapko phal mil jata hai karma yoga se. So this is coming in the sixth verse by Krishna. And then we went into, the process of karma yoga. So a very important process of karma yoga, which Krishna is hammering so much in the Bhagavad Gita, is that I am not the doer. Okay. So this I am not the doer concept Krishna has hammered in so many ways. But in the fifth chapter, he is hammering this concept of that we have to think about this repeatedly in our system, in our mind, that everything is being done by the senses. So from the 8th verse, if you remember, that theme comes up. Neva kinchit karomiti, correct? Pashyan, Shrinvan, Sprishan, Jigran, that means all the sensory activities that we do in this world, whether it is smelling, whether it is tasting, nothing is done by me. It is all being done by the senses only. Okay, very interesting way of putting it. Basically, what Krishna wants to say is that the senses need activity, so they are just engaged in their sense objects. Correct? They need something. So don't think yourself to be the doer. And so what this also means is that this doesn't mean that you can do anything you want, like you can drink alcohol and think that the sense is coming in sense objects. But rather what it means here is whatever is needful for the senses, you do that. and that is fine, right? And in that you understand that the senses are in touch. You are not the doer. Okay, so this concept Krishna is talking. So this concept goes on in the 9th verse also. In the 10th verse again, Krishna is saying, Brahmanya dhyaya karmani sangam tyaktva karoti. Here, if you remember, Brahman we translated here as senses. There are many translations for Brahman, but here Ramanujacharya especially speaks about Brahman here as senses. That means he says that it is the senses that need all these activities. So sangam tyaktva, don't think yourself to be the doer. And just by doing that, what happens? Lipyate sarap nasa papena patma patra ivambasa. Okay, so Ramanujacharya's brilliant example we discussed last time, if you recall, that he says that the yogi is like the lotus leaf in water, untouched, and the materialist is like the cloth in water. Okay, so please remember these two examples graphically. Just imagine you put a cloth in water, the cloth is completely drenched in water. Okay, but if you put a lotus leaf in water, the water doesn't stick to it. So, and this happens because of the consciousness, because you're consciously thinking that you are not the doer. This has to be, according to the Bhagavad Gita and all the commentators, you have to bring this into action in your life, where you don't think yourself to be the doer. You think that just the senses are doing something, so it's okay. Okay, so that's what again Krishna speaks in the 11th verse. Kayena manasa buddhya kevalair indriyarapi. Kevalair indriyarapi means just because the senses have to be engaged, you are engaging it. Yogina karma kurvati sangam tyakto atma shuddhaye. You are working only for self purification in this world. Okay, there is no other purpose. Okay, and then the beautiful verse, 12th verse, yukta karma phalam tyaktva shantim apnoti neshiki. Okay, ayukta karma karena phale sakto nibadhyate. From here onwards, we will see Ramanujacharya's, look at Ramanujacharya's translation here. I put it up on the screen. This 12th verse, he's saying, the one who is fixed on Atma and has no other desire for material pursuits, after giving up the paltry fruits of his action, karma phalam, right, and performing karma yoga. So please remember, in this verse, karma yoga is not written anywhere, but obviously it means that the person is doing karma yoga, right? Because if you have to give up karma phala, you have to first do karma yoga and then only you can give it up. Attains the everlasting blissful peace of enjoying, right? Shantim. He is enjoying the Jivatma. That means he is situated at that Atma Sakshatkar level. On the other hand, Ramanujacharya says that one who is immersed in pursuing material objectives, ayuktaha, such a person, kamakarena, he's driven by the desire to experience material entities, as in he wants to enjoy. And phala sakta, he becomes attached to paltry fruits, nibhadyate, and thus he is bound in the cycle of transmigration. Okay, so this much we have already done, mind you. Now we are going to the 13th verse. Okay, so let's first look at the 13th verse, and then we will go ahead. Okay, so the 13th verse is here on the screen. Sarva karmani manasa sanyasyaste sukam vashi navadware pure dehi neva kurvan nakaraya. Okay, so this is verse number 13. This is where we are starting new. So we'll see Prabhupada translation first. So Prabhupada writes, when the embodied living being controls his nature and mentally renounces all actions, he resides happily in the city of 9 gates, neither working nor causing work to be done. Okay, Navadware Pure Dehi. He's sitting in the city of 9 gates. Yeah, so I think Ramanujarya's translation is also very, very similar here. Let's look at that also. He says the embodied being who is self-controlled, being clear in his mind that the doership is not inherent in Jivatma. Manasa Sanyase, relegate. So basically, he doesn't think himself to be the doer. All the actions are performed onto his body, which is like a town with 9 gates, without himself doing anything and inducing the body. He experiences the bliss of Jivatma. Basically, very similar translation once again, right? Very, very similar translation. So anyway, I'll go into the commentary here. So Ramanujacharya says very nicely that one should think oneself as a servant in this body. So this body is compared to a city, right? Navadware Pure Dehi. So we are sitting in this body, which is like a city. So he says that think you're a servant in the city, and there are many citizens who are there. And who are the citizens? He says the citizens are all the senses. Because all these senses are there, right? 9 senses. They are the citizens because they are the main people who want activity. And the body, he says, is owned by the Paramatma. It is, the Paramatma owns everything. Right? So Ramanujacharya says that the Lord owns this body, and we are only a dasa sitting in this body, and all the senses are the citizens, and the citizens have to be engaged in the service of the owner. And who is the owner? Paramatma. So Paramatma is the owner. So we have to engage all the senses, which are the citizens, in the service of the owner. And the servant, the dasa, is actually doing nothing, because he's simply sitting there witnessing that all the senses are being engaged in the service of the owner of this body, which is a Paramatma. So that is how he puts it. So he compares the soul here just to a servant, a dasa, and the Lord, the Paramatma, to be the owner of the body, and all the senses to be the citizens of the city, who are all sitting here in order to serve the king, the owner of this body, who happens to be the Supreme Lord. So, and in this way, when he sits, he is very happy. Navadware pure dehi is, as we see in this verse, Sarva karmani manasa sanyasyaste sukham vashi. Sukham vashi means he is happily sitting. So how can you be happy? So the clue here in this Gita verse is you can be happy when you are thinking that you are not the doer. Okay, so much Bhagavad Gita hammers this concept. So much it is hammering that we are not the doer, we are not the doer. Because only when we think like that, we remember this, so many of our even day-to-day problems will evaporate in our mind. Otherwise, the world puts so many challenges in front of us. And as long as we think we are the doer, we actually suffer also a lot. But, the Gita speaks so beautifully about this concept in this 5th chapter, that think of yourself just like a witness. Okay, so the dasa, the servant, the Atma is only a witness here, and the body is simply being engaged in yoga. Karma yoga, bhakti yoga, whatever, but it is being engaged in yoga. Okay, so of course, this chapter is Karma Yoga, but Ramanujacharya's commentary as well as Prabhupada's commentary, they use bhakti also at times when they're discussing these verses. So they basically say that when one thinks like this, one can remain actually happy and peaceful in the world. But when thinks that I am the doer, then the ahankara comes up and actually we suffer a lot. So it's a very, very simple, practical suggestion of the Gita to think ourselves as a witness of the actions that we are doing in this world rather than the doer. So that is how the Gita so brilliantly puts this. Then at this point, somebody may say, then what is the position of Atma? Okay, if the senses are all the citizens of the body and they are serving the Paramatma, what is the Atma doing over here? Okay, so that is being explained in the 14th verse. Na kartritvam na karmani lokasya srijati prabhu na karma phala samyoga swabhavastu pravartate. Okay, very beautiful verse. Here again, Ramanujacharya's and Prabhupada's translations are similar. So I'm reading only one translation, Prabhupada's translation. He writes, the embodied spirit, the master of the city of his body, does not create activities, nor does he induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits of action. So Prabhupada says all this is enacted by the modes of material nature. The last line, Ramanujacharya's translation is different. We will look at that. Let's go back to the verse again. So basically, what is Krishna saying here? Krishna is first of all saying here that the Atma doesn't. So because in the previous verse, we said that everything is done by the senses, correct? So then the question is, what is Atma doing? Agar sab kuch sense hi kar raha hai, so Atma kya kar raha hai? What is the Atma doing? Okay, so that has been explained here. So the first thing Krishna is saying here is Atma does not endeavor. Okay, he's not doing anything. So Ramanujacharya gives an example. He says, just like he says, a dog, in a dog's body, if an Atma is sitting, then the dog will bark. In a human's body, if he's sitting, he will talk. And if in a tree body, if the Atma is sitting, then the tree will send its roots underneath to search for water. So Ramanujacharya says, see, in either case, whether you are in a body of a human being, a dog, or a tree, you are not doing anything. What are you doing? It is only the senses which are doing, right? The senses of the dog make you bark. The senses of a human being make you talk. And the senses of a tree make you search for water underground. So he's saying the Atma is actually not endeavoring. It is the body that is endeavoring. Then Ramanujacharya further says the sensory acts are also another thing. That is also not a responsibility of Atma. Sensory activities, because every sense has its sense object and they are also needing some basic engagement. And then he says that the fruits are also not enjoyed by the Atma, because here it comes, na karma phala sanyogam. Na karma phala sanyogam means the karma phala is also not enjoyed by the Atma. because karma phala is enjoyed by the senses only. So he says Atma is not doing. Then the last verse which is there, na, Swabhavastu Pravartate. Prabhupada, as we saw, he translates this as saying that everything is done by the material nature. Here Ramanujacharya has a slightly different explanation, translation. Let's look at that. So Ramanujacharya here he says, Swabhavastu Pravartate. Look at that last line on the screen. Okay, so I'm reading the translation again. So the first part of the translation is pretty same. The Jivatman in the pure state does not create different activities in his body, does not have association with the doership of activities, does not create the association with the enjoyment of fruits. All this is same only. What is active is Swabhavastu, he translates as the subtle vasanas built over countless births. So Prabhupada translated Swabhava as 3 modes of material nature. Here he is translating it as vasana. So why is translating it as vasanas? It comes in its explanation. So basically, I'm going back to the verse, 13th verse. So what he basically says is, he says, because the question here is, see, try to understand what we are discussing. Till now in the 5th chapter, first we started discussing by saying that the senses are only doing everything. Then we said Atma is not endeavoring. Okay, like the body is only endeavoring. Okay, and like different bodies, the senses endeavor in different places. Then the question arises, now then who is doing something? Okay, so the answer here is Swabhavastu Pravartate means Vasana means an experience. Okay, Vasana means an experience with the Atma. So just like he gives an example, just like a child is born, immediately when a child is born, if you've seen in the maternity hospital, when a child is born, it starts crying. Okay, so the question he's raising is, how does he know he has to cry? So he says that because he has been doing like this for countless lifetimes. Whenever he's born, he starts crying only. Okay, so this is something what he is calling as a vasana. Vasana means an experience which is there with the Atma, that whenever you are in any body, how you should act. Okay, so please try to understand why we are discussing this, because 5th chapter is talking about who is doing the action. Till now we said senses are doing the action, but the senses are doing action because of whom? Swabhavastu, because of vasana. So basically in the terms of Nyaya Shastra, this is called Anyonya Ashraya. Anyonya Ashraya means mutual dependence between each other. Anyonya Ashraya means mutual dependence between each other. That means action and vasana are mutually dependent on each other. So if you ask the question, how is an action being done? Like how is a dog always barking? Because the living entity has been in dog's body for so many times in the past, he knows that once he's in that body, that vasana acts, that you are supposed to bark. So the action is due to the vasana. And due to the action, more vasana is created. Correct? So more vasanas are created due to our actions. So action and vasana are said to be anyonya ashraya, mutually dependent on each other. And since it is happening since infinity, in the past, we don't even know, anadi karma phale. We don't know since how long it is happening. Okay, so that is the reason. Okay, so why is all this happening? Why are we acting in this world? Because of our vasana. And why is the vasana there? Because we did action in the past. Okay, and the action came from vasana again. So basically, anyonya ashraya, mutually dependent on each other. In this way, Ramanujacharya explains this particular verse that one is just acting in this world. And so why this knowledge is important, we will see that very soon, because this is connected to how you come out of it. Okay, so we will be completing this section today. This is only till 5.19. I'm going to take only 5 more verses. So because it's a little technical, so we don't take too many verses in one go. Okay, so we are taking the 15th verse. This very interesting verse. Here once again, like we saw in many other classes in the past, Prabhupada's translation and Ramanujacharya's translation is quite different. Both are unique, special. We will look at that. Nadate kasyachit papam nachaiva sukritam vibhuhu ajnane navritam jnanam tena mukhyanti jantavaha. So please try to understand. Because we are talking about responsibility for action. Initially we spoke of senses. Then we spoke of Atma, that Atma is not doing anything. It is because of vasanas or material nature. Now here in this verse, we are talking about, what is this? Yeah, we are talking about, so from Prabhupada's translation perspective, we are talking about Paramatma. So So Prabhupada says this Vibhu is Paramatma. So he says here in the 15th verse, nor does the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious actions. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of ignorance which covers their real knowledge. Okay. So his explanation is that it is even Paramatma is not taking responsibility for anything. Sripad Ramanujan's translation, though, is slightly different here. We will spend some time with it. It needs to be understood. So please try to understand. Please pay attention to the screen here. Vibhu, he translates as Jivatma. Okay, so again, one may say, how can Vibhu be Jivatma? Because logically, it looks Vibhu is Paramatma only. So he says Vibhu is, because again, see, many times, all these words in the Shastra are interchangeably used. Like Atma can refer to body, mind, senses, soul, super soul also. Many times, if you see in Shastra, Atma is translated as super soul. Okay, and similarly, Vibhu here, he has translated it as Atma. So why, he will explain. So he says that Vibhu is nothing but the Jivatma is called Vibhu. He says because he's capable of being present in all places by taking up bodies everywhere. So he says Vibhu here means he is moving everywhere. The Atma is moving everywhere in the material and spiritual worlds, taking different bodies. So the Lord is calling him as some great person, who's always going around doing all this. The Atma is truly great, as in it can move around everywhere in the material and spiritual world, taking up different bodies. So what he says is now the rest of the translation, when it comes, you will understand why he has given such a meaning. Okay. Na datte means does not remove. Kasyachit papam. Now look at this translation. It's just beautiful. Kasyachit means someone. Okay. If you see this word kasyachit in Sanskrit, even in Prabhupada's translation, kasyachit means anyone. Prabhupada writes. Prabhupada uses translation as anyone. Okay. So kasyachit papam means anyone sins. So what he says is the Atma does not remove anyone's sins. That means दूसरे किसी का पाप को निकाल नहीं सकता. Okay. दूसरे किसी का sorrow. So papam means sorrow, na? Why are we calling about papam? Papam means the sadness that comes from our sin. Correct? So he says, so if you see kasyachit papam, he says the sorrow produced by the sins of any of the beings whom he thinks is favorable to himself. Okay, so like we may love our family member. Let's say some family member is undergoing some sorrow. Okay, you cannot remove their sorrow. That's what he's saying here. That means, see, till now we were saying that you don't do anything for yourself. So now according to Ramanacharya, here Krishna is saying, you cannot even do anything for the happiness and misery of another person. That also you cannot do. Okay, are you getting the perspective here? Till now he said that you don't do anything for yourself also. It is all just the senses and vasana due to which things are happening. Now he is saying that खुद के लिए भी नहीं कर सकते, दूसरे के लिए भी तुम कुछ नहीं कर सकते. That means don't think that you can actually help someone remove their suffering and all that. He will give the explanation for that. He says that you can't do that. Now why he is saying that, we will see that soon. So he's saying that you can't remove the sorrow of anyone whom you think as favorable to yourself. Favorable means your family member or close person, and does not remove chana eva datte sukritim. There also he says this kasyachit can be added. The happiness of beings whom he thinks as unfavorable to himself. That means suppose if you think that you have an enemy, let's say someone has an enemy, and that enemy is enjoying life, and you are thinking that I want to remove his happiness. You think that also you cannot do. You cannot remove his happiness. Okay, that means so the whole idea is you cannot drive away the sins of your family friends, and nor can you drive away the happiness of your enemy. Okay, though you are Vibhu, though you are so great that you are going around in all the universes taking different bodies, you are moving, you means the Atma, you cannot do anything to anybody's happiness or misery. Okay, why like that? Because you keep changing bodies. You're changing your body. So basically, since the body is changing, even if you want to remove somebody's dukkha, maximum you can remove their dukkha till you are in that particular body, correct? Once you have left that body, you can't do anything for that. Okay, so basically that is how he's explaining. Then the question is, how is this whole vaso? So now we are going to talk about this vasana. So how is this whole trouble come upon the living entity? Okay, that is in the second part, and this is similar definition as to Ramanuja Prabhupada. Ajnane avritam jnanam. The knowledge of the Jivatman is covered by the papa accumulated over countless births. And by such karmas, the living being is embodied in various bodies like human beings, devas, etc. Right? And one second. Mukhyanti, and is deluded with the wrong notion that the self is the body. Yeah? So basically, he says that the ajnane avritam jnanam. That means again the same point that due to ajnana, due to avidya, due to avidya only, we are covered over, and that is why this is happening to us. So basically, he says here that it's due to avidya or ignorance that the living entity is bewildered, and hence he is thinking that he could do like this to somebody, but he cannot do anything to anybody. So that's the explanation. So it's a beautiful explanation. Now moving ahead, right? 1 second. I just have to take another pic. Just give me a second. Yeah, 1 second. Just open another file. Yeah. Now the solution part. So till now we saw that okay, you don't do anything. Everything is done by vasanas. You don't do anything for yourself, nor can you do anything for anybody, and you're covered by ignorance. So the question is, how do you come out of it? How do you come out of this vasana? So Krishna is saying in the 16th verse, Jnane tu tadajnanam yesham nashitam atmanah tesham aditavajnanam prakashayanti tatparam. Okay, so here the translations are same. So I'm only reading Prabhupada's translation, 16. When, however, one is enlightened with knowledge by which the science is destroyed, then his knowledge reveals everything as sun lights up everything in the daytime. It's a beautiful verse. It's emphasizing a lot on jnana. Okay, so the whole thing is that you come out of this whole chapter of vasana and action. We discussed, right? It is due to vasana we are doing action, and it is due to action again we are getting vasana. And you come out of this cycle of vasana and action cumulatively by jnana, by knowledge. So many times, as devotees, we hear the word jnana, we feel a little bit uncomfortable in that. We feel that, what is jnana? Or sometimes we may feel that, jnana is not that important and so on. But Gita has its own focus on that. So please remember, this jnana is not jnana yoga per se. It is the knowledge which even the karma yogi has to have. I think we have been highlighting that, if you remember, since the fourth chapter of Bhagavad Gita, that the karma yoga is supposed to cultivate jnana along with his karma yoga. That is what Krishna always says. And with that knowledge, the karma yogi basically progresses, because Krishna has presented it very integrated. He has not said that there is karma yoga and then you leave it and go to jnana yoga. Karma yoga, the jnana is embedded in the karma yoga itself. So Krishna is saying that one needs jnana. The jnana obviously comes from the scripture. So by regularly reading the scripture, one feels comfortable. One, and not only from the scripture, by actually contemplation on the teachings of the scriptures, jnana is there. Sudha jnanam yesham nashitam atmanah. Okay, it destroys it by contemplation. So contemplation has been emphasized a lot here by Ramanujacharya also. He says that it's not just enough to have jnana, but one must contemplate on that jnana. That means you should have times where you meditate on the meaning of these verses. So that's actually another reason why we by heart verses, so that we can meditate on the meaning of these verses. And then he gives a beautiful example here. He says, just like sometimes, flame is covered by a cover. Please try to imagine this. Let's say there is a lamp. The lamp is covered. Okay. There is a cover on top. So because the cover is there on top, the light of the lamp is subdued. The light of the lamp is subdued because of the cover. Okay. So the flame is the Atma. The Atma's Teja, Prakash, or whatever. The cover is the Ajnana. Ajnana is the cover. And what he says is the Karma Yoga which is there, when you practice Karma Yoga, along with the Jnana, it creates holes in that cover. That cover which is there, holes start coming in the cover because of your practice of Karma Yoga with Jnana. And then what happens when there are holes in the cover? The flame starts increasing. Okay, the flame starts increasing. And when the flame starts increasing, at one point, the cover is blown out. And when the cover is blown away, the flame is freed from the cover. Okay, so he gives this example to say that the cover is Papa Punya, this Ajnana, and the Atma, which has the capacity to expand everywhere, to become very great, Vibhu. Because in the previous verse, Krishna had spoken about the Atma is Vibhu, right? Vibhu means he's actually great. He's not supposed to be stuck like this in the material body. Okay, so he can actually have this capacity to expand everywhere and really come out of this whole thing by this process, okay, of jnana, which is along with the karma yoga. So please remember. Okay, so this is the process. So please remember, this is the third section of the 5th chapter, which Yamunacharya has spoken as the process, the angas of karma yoga. That means in karma yoga, first of all, you have to understand that the senses are doing, you are not the doer. You have to be conscious that, and the senses are doing due to vasana, and you have to understand that you can't do anything for anybody, as in, because you're limited, and you have to understand these vasanas have been created due to ajnana from a long time, and this ajnana can be blown away by correct practice of karma yoga along with jnana. Only then it can be blown. Okay, and here Ramanacharya also emphasizes that this verse automatically hints at personalism and not impersonalism, because in impersonalism, if one Atma is liberated, then the others are not liberated. Now they are all conditioned only. So in this verse, what we understand is in the 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, that when the Papa Punya are cleared, whichever Atma gets liberated, he is liberated, but others are all stuck in the material world only. So basically he says that Mukti is very individualistic. It is for one person at a time he is getting liberation. It is not like, there is nothing like group Mukti or anything. Okay, and there is nothing like this Christians talk about, right? Group mukti. Everybody is sleeping after death, and one day everybody gets mukti. Yeah, ऐसा कुछ नहीं. हर एक का individual मुक्ति होता है. ध्रुव का plane और ध्रुव का mother का plane अलग-अलग जाते हैं back to God. Okay, because it's very individualistic. So that is there here. Okay, there is nothing like group liberation. Okay, so these are very important. So this is all anga of the karma yoga. So karma yoga is so great that karma yoga with knowledge can bring you to this level also. Now the last 2-3 verses, 17. Tad buddhaya sadatmana sannishta satparayanaha gachanti punaravrittim jnana nirdhuta kalmashaha. Beautiful verse. I'll go to Ramanacharya's explanation here. Yeah. See, persons who are firmly determined that they want to attain Atma Sakshatkar, tad buddhaya sadatmana, have their mind entirely concentrated on it, Tannishta, and are keenly engaged in practices for its attainment, Tatparayana, and have it as their highest goal, Jnana Nirdhuta Kalmashaha, thus have their past karmas destroyed by the knowledge of the Jiva, Gachanti, and attain Apunaravrittim, the Jivatma in its pure essential nature from which there is no return back to samsara. So beautiful translation again. So Tad Buddhaya means being fixed in the knowledge as per previous verse. हमने पहले बात किया था ना, you have to be fixed in knowledge and contemplate on it. So that has to be there first. That Atmana, you have to think about that only. Tannishta, determination should be fixed. Parayana means understand this is my only prayojana. Jnana Nirdhuta Kalmasha means the jnana, with the jnana the dirt can be cleansed. And the last line is extremely important. Gachanti apunaravrittim. Apunaravrittim means to come back. Apunaravrittim means you don't come back. Okay, so this is another place in Bhagavad Gita where it is clear that once you go back to the spiritual, once you get liberation, you don't come back to the material world. Correct? We always talk about it, no? So that is being explained here. So this is all from Karma Yoga, mind you. Till now, Bhakti Yoga is not yet come to the Gita formally. Krishna is still talking about Karma Yoga with Jnana. It has this much power to elevate a person. Because please remember, Bhakti Yoga in the Bhagavad Gita comes from 7th chapter technically. Till 6th chapter, it is all about Karma Yoga only. Right? Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga maximum. And Krishna is speaking about Karma Yoga integrated with Jnana Yoga. So that is what Krishna is speaking. Just by that, one can reach such a great position. Okay. And when you reach such a position, even in this world, forget giving up this world, how do you view this world? Okay. So this very, very famous verse, Vidya Vinay Sampanne Brahmane Gavi Hastini Suni cheva swapakecha pandita samadarshinaha. You achieve that samadarshana. So this is another very big topic that is going to come in the Gita now onwards. Samadarshana means equal vision. Okay, who attains? So we'll just read here. We'll use proper translation here. 19th, 18th verse. The humble sage, by virtue of knowledge, sees with equal vision a learned and gentle brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater. Okay. So Ramanujacharya gives an interesting explanation here. He says 3 pairs have been described here. First pair is go elephant. Go means cow and elephant. Okay. Cow and elephant, as in their size is different. They're same in terms of being like animals, but their size is different. Suni and Sopakecha. So in Suni and Sopakecha, one who kills and one is killed. So Suni means dog. Sopaka means one who kills the dog. Okay, so Sopaka is one who is killing the dog, and Shuni is one who is killed. Okay, so the one who kills and one who is killed. And Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane. So here one may say there is no pair, but why Vidya Vinaya? He says very interesting, because it is from Vidya only that Vinaya comes. That means Vidya means real knowledge, and from that knowledge only Vinaya comes. Only when a person is really knowledgeable, he is humble, right? He is Vinaya. Vidya gives Vinaya. Okay, a very knowledgeable person is one of the very important symptoms of a knowledgeable person is that he is very humble. Okay, Vinayata comes from that. It must, otherwise you really don't have Vidya. So then the question is, where is the pair over here? So he says the pair is that there are some Brahmanas without Vidya also. Okay, so there is a Brahmana without Vidya, there is a Brahmana with Vidya, but both are to be seen equally only by the Pandita. Okay, so the Pandita is going to see all these people equal. So how is he equal? At the level of the Atma, he sees everybody to be equal. So he achieves that position. So please try to understand what kind of position can be achieved in the Gita just by Karma Yoga with knowledge. This is the position one comes to. Okay, so sometimes we think that this Karma Yoga with knowledge, it looks like a very inferior process, but here in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has got that Karma Yoga with knowledge to this point. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne. Okay, Pandita. This Pandit who is there, this Pandit is that Karma Yogi who is acting with knowledge. He has come to this level now. Okay, so that whole process has been described. First, you have to think, again, I'm repeating. You must remember you are not the doer. I mean, we have to go back from the 3rd chapter from our discussion. One has to do Nishkama Karma Yoga. One has to do action for the benefit of society. Okay, that comes, right? Loka Sangraha. And then one has to do thinking that the modes are the doer. Then the 4th chapter also we saw so many attributes of Karma Yoga. And finally, in 5th chapter also we are seeing how one should. So it's all about consciousness. It's all about fine-tuning that consciousness when we are working in this world. Just by doing that, one comes to such a position, especially if he is able to incorporate Jnana also as part of it. So that is very important. Without Jnana, that Jnana has to be embedded in that Karma Yoga. Then only it comes to this particular level. Okay, and the last verse for today's discussion is the happiness that such a Karma Yogi achieves. Okay, Iheva tarchita sargo yesham samye sitam manaha nirdosham hi samam brahma tasmat brahmani te sitaha. Okay, so such a person who achieves that equanimity where he comes, those whose minds are established in sameness. Sameness means that samana bhavana and equanimity have already conquered the conditions of birth and death. They are flawless like Brahman and they are situated in Brahman. Okay, proper translation. That means such a person, he is actually considered a Jivan Mukta. Okay, he may not even go to Vaikuntha. So Ramanujacharya says, just like Vibhishan. He says Vibhishan came to Rameshwaram and Ram made him the king before anything happened only. Correct? We all know that story. Beautiful story it is. Vibhishan does Sharadagati to Lord Ramachandra, and Lord Ramachandra, first thing he tells Lakshman, bring some water, and he coronates him as the king. Before anything has happened, he has already become the king. So similarly, Ramanujacharya says that such a person, he is here only in the material world, but still he has already conquered Vaikuntha or whatever. So similarly, the Karma Yogi here, he is not yet Mukta. He has not yet gone back to Mukti, but he is considered Mukta Prayaha. Almost he has got Muktaha. Okay, so such a person. So at this point, that the section of Kartritva Buddhi Tyaga, or this going back to the Yamunacharya's verse, Kaschana Tadvidaha, the entire, the angas of Karma Yoga are concluded. And now on, so this was actually honestly a little difficult part of the Bhagavad Gita. Thank you for your attention. But the next part onwards is about how you achieve Tamam Brahma, how you achieve equality in vision. Okay, which is what we are going to see next time. Yeah, any questions? Vaibhavanand Prabhu, go ahead. Yeah, please. Yes.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Newer and newer things are being discussed. I'm very happy about it. 2-3 things, Prabhuji. That one thing you told last time, that the last 6 chapters are not Gyan Yoga, because
they are
Krishna
not
has
Jnana Yoga. Yeah.
So Krishna has already told that Karma Yoga is better than doing pure Gyan, and hence we cannot consider 6 at Gyana. So why do you say that? Because everybody practically considers, even outsiders or within ISKCON, they consider last 6 as Gyana.
No. I'll tell you what. See, it's very clear. See, first of all, we have to be very clear. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has never put Jnana Yoga above Karma Yoga. Whereas Krishna said that, hey, Arjuna, stop Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga is better. I mean, there are very clear statements of Krishna that among the two, Karma Yoga is only better. Even in the 18th chapter, Krishna says the same thing. It is in the 18th chapter opening verse also, Arjuna is asking that. See, Yamunacharya, he has put it very nicely. I'll go to that verse. See, I'm just repeating these 3 verses. Now, please look at these 3 verses. Such a beautiful summary is given. 2nd, 3rd, and 4th verse, which is on the screen. Please look at it. 2nd verse, Krishna, Yamunacharya is saying, Jnana karmatmike nishte yoga laksheshu samskrite atmanubhuti siddhyarte purva shatkena chodite. Purva shatkena means first 6 chapters. So what is first 6 chapters? Jnana karmatmike nishte. This jnana and karma, these two. The comparison between them. Yoga laksheshu samskrite. And with the goal of yoga, because 6th chapter ends with Dhyana Yoga, na? So the goal of this Karma Yoga with Jnana is Yoga Lakshya. That we will understand when we come to 6th chapter. The whole goal of Karma Yoga is to come to the position of doing Dhyan. Okay, to Samskrite. Atma Anubhuti Siddhyarte. And the purpose is self-realization. Atma Anubhuti. Purva Shatke na chodhi. Purva Shatke matlab pahla 6 chapter. Ye clear ho gaya. Madhya mein Bhagavat Tattva Yachatma Vapti Siddhaye Jnana Karma Vinirvrityo Bhakti Yoga Prakirtita. It's very simple. I mean, middle 6th chapter is Bhakti Yoga. Bhagavat Tattva Yachatma Vapti Siddhaye. Now, we will discuss this verse once again later, but when we come to the 7th chapter, but this is basically about Bhagavat Tattva, to understand the truth of the personality of Godhead, Krishna. Correct? Completely. Avapti Siddhaye. And Jnana Karma Vinirvrityu. So what he says, Yamunacharya says, is that this bhakti is on top of this Karma Yoga, which has already been discussed earlier. Okay, but so that's the point he makes. Prakirtita. But of course, it's about Bhakti and Bhagavan. So this is middle 6. And look at the 4th verse. He summarizes the last 6. Pradhana Purusha Vyakta Sarveshware Vivechanam Karmadir Bhakti Ityadi Purva Sheshonti Moditaha. Purva Sheshon was the last 6 chapter. Last 6 chapter mein kya hai? First is Pradhana Purusha Vyakta Sarveshwara Vivechanam. That means there are 2 parts in this. Pradhana means material nature. Purusha means the living entity. Avyakta, Sarveshwara is Supreme Lord. So that means first is talking about these 4 topics. About Pradhana, material nature, all this. Okay, so this is one part of it. And then Karma Dhir Bhakti Ityadihi. Then whatever is left of Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, all that. Because in 18th chapter, if you see again, there is so much of discussion of Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga coming. Correct? I mean, it ends with Sarvadharman and all that. Of course, little bit you can say that this point about Pradhana Purusha is related to Jnana. You can say that. But see, the whole point is when you say Jnana, this is not a Jnana Yoga which is separately endeavored. See, Krishna has presented, as we have always discussed, this Jnana has to be embodied in the Karma Yoga only. Matlab, the Karma Yogi has to have this Jnana. Na? See, Krishna is from 4th chapter, if you remember, Krishna is not talking about pure Karma Yoga. He has added knowledge to that. So what happens is when we split it, we think as if Jnana Yoga, matlab, wo Karma Yoga chhod ke Jnana karna hai. Wo nahi hai. ये ज्ञान जो भगवान बता रहे हैं 4th चैप्टर में और इवन दिस 15, 16, 17, this is all components of knowledge which the karma yogi must have. Correct? Krishna has presented it like that only. Krishna has not presented this jnana as something which is because when you say jnana yoga, na, that's a very separate process of the Upanishadic path where you leave action completely. Jnana yoga means the first thing is to stop action. Okay, and that is very clearly not recommended by Krishna. Are you getting my point? That is why I am not saying that. Jnana is there, but it is not jnana yoga per se. I hope you got the technical difference.
Yeah, and but most of the people accept it. The last 6 is Jnana Yoga. Even
No,
Prabhupada
I mean,
says
no,
sometimes,
you have to, no, jnana yoga nahi ho, jnana hai, jnana is there, but this jnana is embodied in karma yoga only. My point is that it is jnana. Because see, when you use the term jnana yoga, na, you have to understand where it comes from. This word jnana yoga comes from Upanishadic path. ज्ञान योगा मतलब क्या? Like the 4 Kumaras are there ना, सब कुछ छोड़ दिया उन्होंने, action छोड़ो पहले. That is what Arjuna is asking ना. Arjuna's question is also very clear in the opening of the 3rd chapter and 5th chapter. He is asking about karma yoga and jnana yoga. So please try to see that ना. 5th chapter में भी देखो ना, पहला वर्ष में क्या पूछ रहे अर्जुन. Look at that verse. Yeah, he is asking sannyasam karmanam Krishna punar yogam cha samyasi. Arjuna is asking, first you told me to do sannyas of karma, which Krishna did not say, but Arjuna is asking that. Punar yogam cha samshasi. Again you are saying that do yoga. Yoga means karma yoga here. Yachre etayor ekam. Tell me which is more beneficial. Right? So sannyasam karmana. This is jnana yoga. Jnana yoga, when you say, it means to give up action. And that is why will Krishna talk in last 6 chapters to give up action? I mean, तो कुछ कोहेरेंसी नहीं है ना भगवत गीता में. मतलब पहला चैप्टर बताने का कि
भगवान
एक्शन
कहते
करो.
सर्वधर्मान कहते हैं भगवान.
नहीं, सर्वधर्मान doesn't mean give up action. Come on, what an interpretation that would be. Because the whole problem of Arjun was he wanted to give up action. Well, come on, we'll have to go back to that discussion, right? We have discussed this many times. See, Arjuna's main point in the Bhagavad Gita in the beginning is he wanted to give up action. He was so ready to give up action right from the first verse. He said, I don't want to fight this war only. He would have loved had Krishna spoken jnana yoga ना पहला जो हम jnana yoga बोलते हैं, अर्जुना वही ले लेता. वो बोलता था अरे मस्त है यार, मेरे को तो करना ही नहीं है ये सब, तो उधर ही गीता खत्म हो जाता. But that's not the point. Krishna is not giving such a method. Where is it there in the Shastra? Correct, you understood the point, na?
Yeah, so I get it that karma yoga has to be done.
Yeah, and the jnana is integrated in the karma yoga. That is the jnana that Krishna is speaking. Krishna is not speaking of jnana yoga, where you do sannyasam karmanam. That is jnana yoga. So these terms have specific meaning. When you say jnana, it is one thing, and when you say jnana yoga, it's a completely different ballgame. So then these words have specific meaning, and then that is very important. You can't forget the meaning of these words.
Okay. Another thing is like, Krishna is also telling to do karma yoga, and you said that, via karma yoga, nobody can go to spiritual world. Yes.
No one can go. That is clear.
But today we were discussing that he has already been.
No, 1 second.
Yeah, he has already.
See, I got it. Karma yoga with jnana can bring you to the platform of Brahman. That's what we are at today. Please try to understand. It is not spiritual world. ये आज का जो 5th chapter है ना, spiritual world के बारे में कहाँ बात कर रहा है? सब
liberation material world से अगर हो गया.
नहीं, अरे बाबा, नहीं, it is like Brahman platform ना प्रभु जी. It's like Brahman platform. देखो ना, वर्ष में clearly लिखा है, प्रभुपाद का translation, सब आचार्य का translation clear है इसमें. ऐसे क्या कर रहे हो? You look at this verse ना. Look at this last verse that we read. निर्दोषम ही समम ब्रह्म तस्मात् ब्रह्मणि ते स्थिताः. अरे forget any translation. Look at the verse itself. सीधा लिखा है ना. Brahman platform पे आता है ना बंदा. Liberation, see, liberation is a term that we are using widely. I mean, the highest liberation means going to Golok Vrindavan. No, वो कहाँ बताया यहाँ पर? How can you go to
were saying
spiritual
that is already considered that he is already there at that platform of spiritual.
No. Brahman. We said Brahman. See, but sometimes we give examples, like we gave the example of Vibhishan, that he was here here only, but he had already got the position of Vaikuntha. So we may, in these verses, we may give the devotee example, but as such the verse is talking about Brahman only. Na सीधा सीधा लिखा है, translation की जरूरत नहीं है. ये वो verse के 5.19. Iheva tair sita sargo yesham samye stitam manah. You know, when you are situated in that samana bhavana, nirdosham hi samam brahma, tasmat brahmani te sitaha. Krishna's words are very clear, na? It is about achieving a Brahman platform. I mean, it is, and that is also liberation only, though it is not spiritual world liberation.
Okay, just the last, just the last thing that you know, do we see examples of devotees in our within our surrounding who has achieved this Brahmanam platform and then doing bhakti yoga? Do we see that? Any example have you seen? I mean, it would be interesting to have that devotee.
I'll tell you one thing. I will go another way and say that India in general had people like this only always. Just try to understand. India, our country, Bharata Bhumi in general had people like this only, who did karma yoga consciously or unconsciously with such mood. And such people automatically at a particular time, they evolve into a bhakta. This is I would say the majority are like this only. I mean, you are trying to find whether there is anybody like this. I would go on to say that this has been the standard practice in our Bharata in general, where people have gone through this path only. Like, many brahmacharis also say this, that when their parents, who are coming from very good background, dharmic background, doing their duty nicely in life, when even a spark of Krishna is touched to their life, it becomes a big fire immediately. Because it is like a very, fragrant field that is sitting. Can you imagine somebody who has led life perfectly in karma yoga the way Krishna says in Gita? He is like a field which is ekdam fertile. And it is so fertile that one seed also comes of bhakti, immediately it becomes into a fruit and flower. And so I am saying the other way. I am saying that on such field only the true bhakti can very easily come. Because that maturity has come to that level now already. Try to understand. उनको भक्ति में स्थित होना बहुत ही, because that's how 7th chapter will come later. एकदम आसानी से हो जाएगा, उनको कोई दिक्कत ही नहीं होगी.
No, I just this is very nice point, Proju, but I just wish to know if somebody is on Brahman platform who just heat and cold doesn't matter, or he has become bhakta. It will be very interesting to see such a person. And because
I got it. See, when you say heat and cold doesn't matter, see, Krishna is nowhere. It is not so impractical that in heat he is standing outside. That means basically he is situated in his duty without being affected. Are you getting my point?
Okay.
Without being affected, without deeply being affected, he is continuing what he is doing. Come on, so many simple. I mean, I'll tell you. See, again, what happens when we take examples now, then it becomes very personal. But still, since you asked an example, I'll just tell. Last time also I mentioned this. Recently there was this interview of this Annamalai, right, in one channel. I told I will put it. I'll just put it up also. Beautiful interview.
Yeah.
He has been asked, do you aspire to be Prime Minister? What an answer he gives. He talks about dharma. He talks about life. He talks about how we should just move in life without any specific aspiration. Just try to serve dharma. He uses the word dharma 10 times in his answer in an interview channel, saying that we are just here to serve dharma. And wherever dharma takes us, we just follow that without setting specific goals in life. Arey, kya answer hai? I mean, see, that answer may be political. Somebody may say, I say, vote kamane ke liye bola. Lekin that you cannot judge. Answer is perfect, but that is what Gita is talking. Are you getting my point? So basically, so when you say examples, it becomes very difficult, because when we name a person, then suddenly an image comes to our mind, and we find so many faults in that person. That is why that's why in Krishna and Bhagavad Gita, he doesn't give too many examples. He has given only one example of Janak Maharaj. Or koi example hi nahi diya Bhagavan ne. He has just given concept. And the fact of the matter is that people have lived like that. Aisa nahi hai. Because Krishna himself says so many people have achieved success by this method. And this method, when Krishna is saying in the first 6 chapters, it is Karma Yoga method only. Are you getting it?
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah, sorry, boss. Yes, Sunita Mataji, or who is that? Someone's hand was raised. Anybody's hand is raised or something? Any comment, question?
Yeah, sorry, Prabhuji. Actually, I was on mute. So
Yeah,
meanwhile,
please.
I was typing the question then.
Yeah, please.
So my question was that if Atma is just acting as a witness and body is basically due to the senses of the body, the actions are happening. So who is getting entangled? Is the body getting entangled? That is one. That second is that when we do bhakti, so are we doing bhakti for liberation of the soul or for the body?
Yeah, very good question. Very good question. Okay, the first one. See, first of all, let's try to meditate a little bit on this point, Prabhuji. How Atma is only a witness. I mean, let us even look at our daily life, We sleep at night, because the senses need the sleep. Get up in the morning, our senses are dirty. It has to take bath, right? Our senses are engaged in brushing the teeth, taking bath, right? Decorating our body properly with tilak, wearing clothes. If you see even a normal life of a person, it's all about senses needing different things at different times, right? Think about it carefully. And as a witness, we are just participating in that action. Are you getting my point? अभी भूख लग रही है शाम को क्लास के बाद बैठ के प्रसाद लेना. I mean, we take prasad, but a normal man takes food. Correct? Why? Because the senses need it. If you think about it very deeply, it is actually correct that the senses are only having all these hundreds of requirements. And what is the body doing? I mean, what is the Atma doing? He's only witnessing. सिर्फ देख रहा है कि ऐसा ऐसा चल रहा है वही करके. Okay. Now, as far as yeah, I'm audible, right, Haribol? Yeah, I think I am.
Yeah, yes, Prabhuji. Yes.
Yeah. And on the other hand, if you see who is getting entangled, see, basically that is illusion, because of our misidentification with this set of body. We think we are entangled. We think I'm bound by this. Correct. So actually, if you see, the liberation starts with that knowledge, with that understanding as to I'm separate from this set of senses. वहां से liberation शुरू हो जाता है. Just imagine, even this theoretical knowledge that I'm not the body is actually liberating. Jayadeva Maharaj gives that beautiful example that he was once in America. He was in some book distribution seminar. So he had a stall. So he was loudly making the point to somebody that you are not this body, you are the spirit soul or something like that. He was making the point. It seems two fat Western ladies were walking. And as they were walking, they said, "Oh, such a relief to hear this." They spontaneously said it. Such a relief to hear that I'm not the body. Because that simple jnana that you are not the body, that itself is starting liberation. That itself is going to liberate us. And what to speak of if somebody is constantly working with this idea, is very conscious that I'm not the doer. Maharaj always talks, right, about this, not to have that ahankar that I'm the doer. So thinking that I'm not the doer, thinking that, in our daily life also, just participating in the body like a witness, like Ramanujacharya says, think you're just servant sitting in the body. All the senses are the masters, not the masters, or the citizens, and the Paramatma is the owner of the house. So that's the example Ramanujacharya gives here. So anyway, the point is that if one really gets into that mood, that itself is the starting of liberation. And liberation basically means what? Even this jnana, when it becomes paripakwa, when it becomes, pakka, then at that time that ajnana is completely removed, and then sitting in the body, one is liberated. That's exactly what 5th chapter is talking about. That you see that everybody is just like you only, a soul who is entangled, and you achieve samam brahma, you achieve equanimity in sight, and once that is achieved, the Bhagavad Gita says you are liberated. Liberated means Brahman platform liberation ho gaya already. Are you getting it?
Yes, Prabhuji, but the act, if the body is doing wrong act, but the Atma is just witnessing, so that means not getting liberated now, because our body is doing wrong acts.
Yeah, no, because the body is doing wrong activity means the Atma is under illusion. Yeah? See, when will you do wrong act? Only when you are under illusion. If somebody will do a wrong act only when he's thinking is the body, right? If you are not thinking that you are the body, you will not do a wrong act. No? The wrong act is done because of wrong identification with the body. And that wrong identification with the body makes one do wrong acts. That wrong act further, action gives vasana. Vasana gives action. So again, you get strongly caught up in the conception that I am this. Okay, and you descend into various, life forms, and you are more and more entangled, quote unquote. Correct, no?
But Prabhuji, what about like past life? Like Ramanujacharya said that the actions are because of the past experiences.
Yeah.
So this life one may not be like, one may be inclined to do the good thing, but because of the past experiences,
Yeah, correct. Understood. So our vasana is going to affect us. So that is why, so the process of karma yoga takes time. No? So I mean, this whole thing takes time because of our past. We are again and again having vasana to do things in a certain way. But at least in the fifth chapter ka process, when we come to Bhakti Yoga, we will understand more on this. But as far as fifth chapter is concerned, when one is doing the karma yoga along with the knowledge, along with inculcating the knowledge of the scripture, one repeatedly understands, right, that these vasanas are tempting me in certain ways. So I need to understand how to act and how not to act and withstand. So somewhere that cycle between vasana and action have to be broken. Na? I mean, vasana leads to action, action leads to vasana, but somewhere it has to be broken, and that is broken in fifth chapter with knowledge. Knowledge breaks that cycle, because with knowledge I understand that I'm not supposed to act plainly according to my vasana. Correct? Krishna is going to talk about that in fifth chapter. He is talking about, for example, yehi samsparshaja bhoga dukkha yone evate. This verse is going to come in the next 2-3 verses only. So Krishna is asking us to break the cycle between vasana and action. Only when that is broken, the liberation starts. And this is to be done by the karma yogi. Karma yogi is expected to do even this sense control.
Okay. And what about the role of modes in this scenario?
Yeah. Modes is vasana. See, modes only is vasana. See, what Prabhupada translates as modes, Ramanujacharya translates as vasana. Because the same thing, na? Modes of material nature मतलब क्या है? Basically आपका past, वो आपका जो सत्वगुण, रजोगुण, तमोगुण का combination. उसको ही हम वासना बोल रहे हैं ना यहाँ पर. That means vasana means, please try to understand, vasana means a particular nature which tempts us to do certain things. Correct ना? मतलब एक naturally एक आ जाता है ना हमारे system में, ये करो वो करो अभी करके. That is vasana. That natural inclination of the living entity to behave in certain ways, which causes us to do action. Correct?
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah, Haribol. Yeah, Uddhavanand Prabhu, you had a question?
Yes, Prabhuji, I was having a question in relation to this aspect only. I am not the doer because having this mood, at my level, what my understanding is, it is more at the level of sentiments only for me. Because when it comes for practical application, that I am not the doer. For example, when it specifically boils down, when one is in temple management and one is taking care of people, and many other assets are there and many things are there, then this consciousness, Prabhuji, I don't know, I many times get conditioned that this is mine and I am doing this, and so this credit taking tendency grows. So
Yeah.
how it is that I am trying to do
I think mainly material nature teaches us that I am not the doer by giving us failures also. See, because material nature doesn't always give us success. It also many times responds in various ways. There are people, there are in projects, whether ISKCON, non-ISKCON, whatever, you suddenly understand that you have been thrown out of somewhere, right? You're doing a project and you're just kicked out of that. So you actually start understanding that you're not the controller or the doer, as in, you don't really, do things. It's happening due to vasanas of people around you also. Correct? No? This vasana is not only your vasana. When you are in a family, when you are in a society, when you are in a movement, there is vasana or nature of various other people also, no? Which is affecting various things. So various actions happen. Okay, so sometimes you come up, you become like a big doer, and sometimes you're suppressed, where you're pushed under the rug is taken off the feet. So I think that material nature only sometimes teaches us lessons where we start to appreciate and understand that I'm not the doer. If we are not willing to consciously understand it, philosophically.
Yeah,
Making sense, no?
and one more point is,
Prabhuji,
Prabhuji,
so
when-
many, like just to give an example, so many times, I mean, with so many people, of course, you have a child now, but you may be knowing so many people who got married, but they just don't get a child. You go to the doctor says everything is normal, but still child does not happen. Are you getting it? I mean, material nature really forces us to understand that you are not the doer. आप कार्य कर रहे हो लेकिन कुछ नहीं हो रहा है. आप कार्य नहीं कर रहे हो लेकिन तभी कुछ सडनली हो जाता है थोड़े प्रयत्न से.
yeah.
I mean, there was one couple I remember. They were like, प्रभु जी हमने कुछ किया नहीं, बच्चा हो गया. मैं बोला ऐसा कैसे हो सकता है? कुछ तो किया रहेगा ना. They were like, नहीं प्रभु जी, कुछ करने के पहले ही हो गया. So the whole point is this doership is amazing if you think about it. Yeah.
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you. Just one point, Prabhuji. So when certain difficult times come specifically like this, then what exactly we should do more to realize that I am not the doer? Because at this time, what generally happens is there are burns in the heart, that
I
like this
agree, I
happened
agree.
with me, like that happened with me. So how to develop this consciousness at that time specifically?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think at that time, we have to consciously also understand. I mean, I'm giving a more spiritual answer over here. We have to also understand, maybe Krishna wants us to do something else or wants us to do something very differently. Okay, but we are attached to doing some things in some way only and thinking, "Aisa kiya to hi mera success hai."
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a very higher dimensional answer. But I think in a more, what shall I say, subdued level, we also understand that in human interaction, there are, like the 5th chapter Bhagavad Gita, the vasanas of so many people are interacting. See, एक तो हमारा वासना है, because of which we are acting in some way. बाकी लोग का वासना भी है ना आजू बाजू के. Because of their vasanas, they are acting in certain ways. And all these actions are conflicting with each other. And sometimes one has to step back in one's action. So one understands that actually nobody is in play. It is just that everybody has a vasana. Everybody has a nature, na? Imagine you're in a house and your family members have a particular nature, and because of that nature or vasana, they are strongly impelled to do some type of action. Okay, what can you do? I mean, you're just a witness. ये सब चल रहा है आजू बाजू में. Are you getting it, na? Your vasana is causing you to act in certain ways with certain expectation. Yeah. Another person's vasana is causing him or her to act in another way. And you are a witness to all this. As an Atma, you are simply sitting inside and watching this tamasha. ये चल रहा है. And you have to understand the principle of Karma Yoga. Krishna is asking you to be Nishkama. Do things without that attachment. बोल रहे भगवान वापस कितनी बार बोल रहे. Do without attachment. Don't think about the fruit. Just think that you want to contribute something for the welfare of all. So do things. Correct, na?
Yes, Prabhuji. It's a very difficult statement, Prabhuji, when it comes to application.
No, but then my point is the world sometimes, whether you like it or not, forces you to apply. And everybody के साथ होता है. ऐसा नहीं कि सर आपके साथ मेरे साथ होने वाला है. हर एक के साथ होता है. You're forced to apply that. We may think that I will not apply it. Oh, material nature will laugh. It will say that मैं तेरे को करके रखने वाला. मतलब छोड़ता नहीं किसी को material nature. Anybody, whoever is big, small, tiny, कोई भी. Are you getting the point, na?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you very
much. So if you don't do it, then you have to suffer more actually. Because when you don't develop this consciousness, at that time you end up suffering more, na? Because you are thinking that I am the doer और ये बाजू वाले ने आके कुछ एकदम तमाशा ही बना दिया. So then you are suddenly thinking, अरे क्या हुआ यार मेरे साथ?
Yeah.
So at least this philosophy gives you hope that when you are situated in this, you go beyond that temporary misery or whatever it is. नहीं क्या?
Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. La Prabhupada ki jai. Yeah. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai.